Hi, this is the Professional Amateur Hour coming to you with another review. This week, Snowpiercer just finished their third season, so I thought I would give some thoughts about it. And this 2020 show stars Jennifer Connelly and David Diggs and Sean Bean, among others, of course. The story of this show involves this destroyed Earth, and the Earth has been destroyed by humans, of course, and it has been completely frozen over. And so all life has been frozen to death, except for this one train that goes around the world in perpetual motion. And that way it never has time to, slow down and get frozen. And so all of humanity is kind of contained within this one train. And so they have to, live together, figure out how their society works, or, maybe not. And what will happen exactly? You'll have to watch it and find out. All right, so let's discuss this TV show. Well, this TV show, like I said, just finished its third season. So I will try to talk about it more as kind of like an overall series. And so I will try to, eliminate any spoilers. There will be one slight spoiler coming up though. So do be warned for that. Having said that, there is also a movie of this one. I think it came out in 2003. I think there's actually a review of it on this channel. And this is kind of the same story, everyone's trapped on this train. However, there's a bunch of stuff that they kind of removed and also added. So if you are a fan of the movie, you might want to check out the TV show. It's definitely different. It's not exactly the same story. A lot has been expanded on, and it actually goes a lot further into the story as well. So it's pretty cool that way. So if you are a fan of the movie, I would definitely consider checking out the TV show. And having said that, I think the most interesting aspect of this show is the train itself. I mean, it's just so interesting just to see how you have to survive on this arc type of, train going around the world. And I just found that so interesting. How do you feed everyone? How do you, educate everyone? How do you get more people onto the train? And what do you do if people die? All of that stuff is really interesting, kind of within a contained ecosystem. And so they have to kind of develop their own society as well. And that kind of distinction between societies and even within the train, and they kind of treat it as nation states within the train too. And I just thought that was so interesting. And so all the different aspects with the train are just so interesting. And it's not a small train either. It looks like it's 4 stories and 4 cars wide and stuff. And so it's a very interesting train. And again, with their society, how would you organize a society if you're just, trapped inside a fixed container? Would you have a class structure, or would you have a democracy, or would you set up a kingship? Maybe that's what you guys want to do. And all of that, a lot of the story actually involves kind of this conflict of how society would work. And some people want a king, some people want democracy, some people would just have a class system, and I just found that so interesting, and how it all kind of works together. I'm interested in civilization and how it started and how it works. And if you've seen the movie, there's one section where it's called The Tale. They are treated like garbage, and I just thought that's so interesting. And I've done some research about societies, and there's always usually one type of person or one section of society where laws don't really apply, and that is true in this train as well. So that's very interesting, and how they overcome that. And the world in general is just so interesting, I find. And so I would say, if you are interested in civilizations and stuff like that, yeah, you can check this one out and try to figure it out for yourself. In addition, I really liked all of the characters. I think there's not even one that I didn't really like. Even the psycho characters I really liked. I do have to remind myself, why they're not the best people. But, there's lots of good characters in this one. And they're so dynamic as well. Every character seems to be really invested in their role in society and their place in society. Some of them, are trying to move up. Some of them are trying to heal old wounds. Some of them are trying to just keep their own power. And so all of it seems like they are really have some type of stakes or investment within the greater society. And that just makes me root for all of them. It doesn't really matter who they are. Of course, I wish for some of their downfalls at certain points, but at the same time, they're all very dynamic. They all change over the whole course of the 3 seasons. And, by the end, you don't know what's going on, or you do know what's going on, but you don't know, necessarily what's going on in some people's minds. There are a few characters that do kind of shift on a dime, but I think that's more of their personality. And so there's just so many interesting, dynamic characters that you really do get invested in. So yeah, the characters are one thing to stick around for sure. Also, with the story, I find that each season has its own like story arc, and that it does conclude at the end of every season as well. And that is good, especially, if you're not really into watching TV that often, you can just kind of watch it by seasons. However, they do kind of throw in a curveball at the end of every season. Like the last 30 seconds is always like a giant curveball. And even with like this third season that just wrapped up, I really did enjoy the ending. I thought it was a good conclusion to the whole series, but then they throw in a curveball in the last 30 seconds. So I'm like, oh man, now I gotta wait for the fourth season to figure out what's going on. And so it's all really interesting. And, I was talking to a friend about this show, trying to explain it to them. And they said, they like the movie, and should I watch it if I like the movie? And I say totally. It goes way beyond the movie. For example, here's going to be my slight spoiler. There are two trains. I know, there's two trains. When my friend heard that, they laughed and laughed and laughed. And so it definitely goes way beyond the movie. So if you do enjoy the movie, think about watching the show as well, because it does go way beyond it. Also, I really did enjoy the CGI with this show. Most of it's done really, really well, to a very high standard as well. I know it's just a train going through some, winter landscapes, but it's just so cool what they can do, whether it's, going past the pyramids or doing like corkscrew turns. All of it's really good with the train. I think with the season 3 intro, maybe that wasn't as high quality as the rest, but all of the train scenes, I absolutely love them. I always try to, pause on them, especially when I'm looking at like the promos for next week. I'm always pausing on the train scenes and stuff. So maybe I can clip in some here for you so you can just see how cool this train is. And so you can see how much effort they've put into the CGI. And it just makes it, a much more kind of realistic world, believable world, and really gets you involved in this little capsule of humanity. So that's definitely a big plus. And that brings us to what doesn't necessarily work with this show. Well, with this show, I would say it is like a sci-fi drama show. And so it is mostly drama. Of course, they have some action in there as well. But I always find the action to be rather fleeting. There's never, like a big action episode like where it's like action non-stop. With this one, even if they're like having a war like in the movie, like they'll stop and say like, let's not kill everyone, let's like negotiate what's going to happen. And so there are some negotiations. I do find that builds intensity and suspense, but it's much more about the characters. So if you can get attached to the characters, yeah, you'll definitely like it. If you're just there for like the action or the high octane action of the movie, probably not going to be there all that much. Of course, there's going to be a few things here or there that you'll really enjoy, but it's not a lot of action. And again, it is fleeting as well. So if you are for the movie with its action, just know it's not necessarily in this. Other than that, with the whole world, I did have to like kind of suspend my belief in reality and how it would actually happen. I know it's sci-fi and you're not really supposed to believe in this reality, but the way it's set up is that the whole world is frozen and there's tracks everywhere on Earth, especially how it kind of worked out in season 3. It just seems like there's always another track, there's always another turn, and there's always a track next to that track, and there's always a track next to that other track as well. And so it just seems like the world is just covered in tracks, and you definitely have to, do some fantasy elements with that, or just believe in the fantasy of this train with that one, because yeah, there's just too many tracks to have any feasible reality within this world. So it's just something that annoyed me, especially in season 3. It's not a big issue in other seasons, but just kind of the way it worked out in season 3, I was just like, where are all these tracks coming from? Like this is absolutely impossible. So yeah, as long as you're willing to believe in that sci-fi fantasy train, you'll enjoy it. But if you are looking for some type of reality, you will have to suspend your mind at some time. So yeah, just be aware of that. So who would I recommend this show for? Well, I think if you like the movie, yeah, definitely check it out. Like I said, it goes far beyond the movie, especially with the second season and beyond. And that's all really cool. if you're like a sci-fi drama fan, definitely check it out. It should be right up your alley. If you like things like Battlestar Galactica, where, you know, all of humanity is trapped on this battle star, then, you know, this is all of humanity trapped in a train. So it definitely shares some aspects with things like that. And so, yeah, definitely check it out. As for a rating, you know, with this rating, it is going to be for the kind of first 3 seasons combined. I think with, you know, season 1, I would probably give it a 7. Season 2, I'd probably give it 8. Season 3, a little bit lower at a 6. And so, you know, combining those numbers, finding the average, and then, you know, having a little bit of a gradient in there, I'm going to give it a 6.7 overall. And having said that, I think that's all I wanted to say. So like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.